Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to my hobby blog. Today I'm very excited because I've had Malazan kind of in my head a lot lately. Mostly because one of my friends just finished it and we've been talking about it a lot most nights through the week as he's been reading book 10 and also book 9. The last 2 weeks he went through both books. And so Malazan has been floating around my head a lot these last few weeks. And it got me thinking because I'm a big movie watcher. I own about 800, almost 900 movies in my collection. And I have been downsizing a bit just to sell off kind of the extra fat in the collection where I don't really want them anymore. But I'm a big movie goer. I always have been since I was very little. Movies have always been a huge part of my life, and Malazan also has sort of been on the edge of my periphery for most of my life, at least since 2012, I want to say, when Crippled God was released, I think 2013. And I picked up book 1 in 2013 during the midst of me rereading A Song of Ice and Fire over and over and over again because I was in high school and I was obsessed with that series, and I was waiting for book 6, The Winds of Winter, and it never came, and was still waiting on that, but I began Malazan for real last year, about a year and a half ago, and it just blew me away. I really enjoy Stephen Erikson's and also Ian Esslemont's writing. I am just in awe of the world that they have created together, and the storylines and characters are so iconic to me. And I just love the series so much. So I wanted to marry both of these interests of mine, movies and Malazan, and sort of give those who aren't as, I guess, knowledgeable in movies as I am, like, go-to movies for those who want more of, like, Malazan feeling media. And I have 10 movies here in a stack that I genuinely feel like Malazan fans will greatly enjoy, because a lot of these movies have similar themes, they have similar storylines, they have very similar characters that you would find in Malazan. And one of the ongoing jokes that I have with my friend when we talk about Malazan is I always say there's a little something for everybody. Like, there's all, like, no matter what kind of reader you are, there's going to be something you love in Malazan. And with the type of reader that I am, and as you can see as going through my book videos, uh, Malazan is something I deeply love. And these movies here, I think, for those who don't want to, like, only read Malazan, but want something that invokes the emotions of Malazan or the atmosphere or anything like that, like, these are your movies. And without further ado, the first movie, and, well, one thing I should note is that I will be showing these movies chronologically. So the first movie I will be showing is from 1954, and the most recent movie that I have in this stack is from 2022. And all of these I am going to give no spoilers on, because I want you guys to watch this video or watch these movies, and I don't want to give any spoilers. But a lot of these movies are classics, movies that I feel as if everybody in humanity should watch at least once, because these movies are life-changing in my eyes and have changed my life for the better because of the subject matter, and also just how amazing they are, and how deeply these movies can affect you, because these movies are just amazing, like, amazing movies anyways, let alone as a Malazan reader. So the first movie I will be talking about is probably my favorite movie of all time, and that's a high bar because there's a lot of great movies out there, but it is the movie Seven Samurai by Akira Kurosawa from 1954. The basic story of this movie is that there are bandits coming to a village to take all the grain and rice and money and just any resources they have. This is during the time of the shogunate, so there's a lot of like corruption going on. The people of the land, the small people, uh, no one cares about them. They're kind of just left to fend for themselves. And they want to beat back these bandits who are promising to come in the spring after the harvest. And they're like, we need a harvest, we need food, but we don't want our food taken. What do we do? And they go to town, they go to the nearest town that is somewhat bustling, and they hire 7 samurai, and the story is all about them learning how to defend this town. And this is very Malazan to me because there are so many storylines in Malazan where you have a vulnerable group of people seeking help from warriors, and those warriors come back, and things are a little different than what they expect, or stakes come in that they were not expecting, and you just really get like such a deep look at the human condition throughout this movie, because each of the samurai represent like a virtue within the samurai code. And the leader, who is played by Takashi Shimura, is one of my favorite samurai in this movie. He is very selfless. He shaves his head as a holy man, or he disguises himself as a holy man and shaves his head, which is something that holy people in the 16th century did not do back then. Like, you don't shave your head as a samurai or a holy wanderer. I don't know exactly what he's disguising himself as, but the point is that he shaves his head, and that throws off the bandit that has taken a child hostage, and he is trying to save the boy. And this guy becomes the leader of the 7 samurai, and he has such a deep history with all of the samurai here that eventually become hired on to protect the villagers. And we also have Toshiro Mifune, who is one of the most well-known Japanese actors of all time. He was a frequent Kurosawa collaborator. He's been in, I think, 12 of his movies. Just each one of them are absolutely classics. And it's just amazing. I just love this movie. It's one of my favorites. I think I have a half-hour review where I go through like the entire movie, just describing why it's the greatest movie ever. So I'll try to link that below if I can find it. But if you're a Malazan fan, you need to watch 7 Samurai by Akira Kurosawa. This was also remade as The Magnificent Seven, I believe. There's a lot of cultural osmosis going on between the Western genre and the samurai genre. They constantly borrowed each other's storylines and actors. Clint Eastwood was a huge fan of the samurai films, and he was actually playing the main character from the original film Yojimbo, which is another Kurosawa film that is also starring Toshiro Mifune, and he stars in the Western remake of it, which is Fistful of Dollars, I believe. And it's shot-for-shot remake. It's the exact same script. Sergio Leone and Kurosawa had a pretty great friendship after that movie because they Kurosawa sued Leone, and Leone was very quick to rectify that mistake, and they became good friends, and the movies very much influence each other. That's just a fun little history lesson between the two countries, because I do really enjoy Japanese films. And the vast majority of this stack will actually be Japanese films, I should go ahead and say. But the next movie that I want to pitch as a great movie for Malazan fans is another Kurosawa film, Throne of Blood. And this is all these editions that I'm showing here are collector editions put out by the Criterion Collection, which was one of the first companies to include special features with movies when Laserdiscs were coming out. And it's they have a great business, and I wholeheartedly encourage everyone to take a look at the collection. But Throne of Blood, this movie here, also stars Toshiro Mifune. And this movie is an adaptation of Macbeth by William Shakespeare. And the reason why I think this movie is a great watch for those who like Malazan is that Steven Erikson is open about being influenced by the classics and loving Shakespeare and wanting to put tragedy in his stories and putting a lot of like deep emotional moments. And this movie has it all. It is great watching a samurai version of Macbeth because that's what this is. It's very one-to-one with the original play, but instead of like royalty, or I don't know how to describe them, it's been so long since I've read it, but from what I remember, they were not samurai. Like, none of these characters were samurai. But taking that story and translating it into a samurai story is just like one of my favorite decisions made in like movie history. Like, it is such a interesting look at the story of Macbeth. I love it. There's a lot of great cinematography in this movie, especially with the prophetic woman who keeps giving our Macbeth character visions about the future that aren't exactly straightforward. And so he thinks one thing's going to happen, but, you know, it does happen the way he thinks, but it's completely flipped on its head. It's very Shakespearean. It's an adaptation of one of his stories. But, like, this movie is just amazing. This one has a lot more of a, I guess, like a atmospheric feel. Like Seven Samurai is just a really straightforward action movie, sort of, that is focused on protecting villagers. And this movie is a lot more art house than Seven Samurai. Even though it's the same director and you still get the masterwork that Kurosawa was, he employed the best people on his movies. But Throne of Blood is just absolutely amazing. It is black and white, but don't let black and white get in the way of enjoying classics. This should be seen by everybody, including Malazan fans. But another movie that also comes from Japan that I would wholeheartedly recommend everybody watch, but not in one sitting, because this is a much longer movie. Technically, it's 3 movies. This came out back in 1959 all the way through 1961. They filmed each movie separately and then just stitched them together. And then they aired it over 3 nights on television in the early 60s in Japan. And this is directed by another great Japanese director by the name of Masaki Kobayashi. And it also stars one of my favorite Japanese actors, Tatsuya Nakadai, who was also in Seven Samurai, but in a very small part. But this movie came out 5 years later after Seven Samurai and after the film Harakiri, which is the previous film of this director's, that he was actually the main star of. And he is just amazing in that movie. I did not include that movie on this list, but that is absolutely a Malazan-feeling movie. But I think this movie is a lot more personal to me, because this is called The Human Condition. This movie is all about World War II on the Japanese side, from the perspective of a recently graduated businessman who is looking for a job, and he gets hired on to run a prison camp during the Japanese and Chinese War, like back in 1939, I believe. Sort of right in the beginning of World War II on that side of the conflict. But that's what the first movie is about, is him running this prison camp. And then the second movie is about him, what is it? No, I had it mixed up. I apologize. Movie 1 is about him training. No, shit. I'm sorry. It's been a few years since I've seen this movie, but it's all about a Japanese businessman who goes through many different phases of the war during World War II. And he eventually winds up with the Soviets, and this movie is just very hard to watch. But as the title of the movie is, with the human condition, this is all about the human condition during times of war. And I don't know any better movie than that when it comes to Malazan, because Malazan is so focused on soldiers and what they go through during war, and also battles and just personal lives too that are being woven through the story of conflict and war. It is so effective, and this movie is one that just makes one cry many times throughout the movie. And I don't recommend watching it straight through. It is 9.5 hours long. It's 3.5 hours each, about 3 hours at the minimum per movie. But I watched this over a 3-night period with my dad, and we both loved it. This was one of, I think, my favorite movies I've ever seen, and it's absolutely worth it. It's so humanist. It's very compassionate. Our main character is just somebody you can really root for, and it's really fascinating to watch his journey, because you see him pre-war, hearing about the war, and then you see him part of the war, but not in the battles, but kind of as an administrator, as a, like, of running the prison camp, and then he becomes a soldier because he's not a good camp runner, because he's just too compassionate, he cares too much about other people, and it is just so fucking good. This is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I've been meaning to do a rewatch. It's been a few years. I think I talked about, this is one of my first videos I did on YouTube. I can't remember. If I can find a video, then I'll post it below, and I'll make sure to post my reviews of each of these movies that I've done, because all these movies I've talked about many times on my channel. But if you're a Malazan fan, please watch these 3 movies, The Human Condition. Now, this movie is one that not many people know about, but it is called Red Angel, another Japanese directed film by, let me find his name, Yasuzo Masamura, who is amazing, by the way. A lot of his movies have to do with satire. This movie is not satirical at all. This is a lot more of a war film. It's about a surgeon's assistant working in World War II. Came out the same year as the movie I will show next after this. But this came out in 1956 or 1966, I apologize. But this movie is just absolutely incredible. You follow this woman as a surgeon's assistant in World War II, trying to help as many soldiers as she can, any way that she can, including medicinal, psychological, just anything she can do for these soldiers who are near death and bleeding out and missing limbs and missing their families. This is not an easy watch to watch. It's very bleak. You have skulls on the back. This is a really hard movie to watch, but this is another movie where, as a Malazan fan, I read so many scenes in Malazan that made me think of this movie, of someone selflessly helping other soldiers in order to give them some peace and comfort at the end of their lives. And it is a very beautiful movie, but again, it's really hard, and it's adapted from a book as well by the author Yorichika Arima. I have not read that story, but it's one of the best war films from Japan that has ever come out. Very, very good. Yeah. And another movie from 1966 I would highly recommend Malazan fans to watch, because this movie not only came out the same year as the last movie, Red Angel, 1966, but this movie follows a villain. And this is the film Sword of Doom by Kurachi Okamoto. And I'm not really familiar with that director as much as the other ones I've already talked about, but this stars Tatsuya Nakadai, also in Seven Samurai and The Human Condition, as well as Harakiri. He is just so fucking good in this story. He plays a outlaw samurai who has no code anymore. He has no loyalties to anybody, and he's just on a path of destruction that eventually leads to him going mad because cruelty and evil never prevailed. And this movie is a great character study of a villain like that, and it really makes me think of a lot of Malazan characters that go down a path like this, where they sort of know what they're getting into, but they're still doing it because they don't really know any other way of life. And this is just a really great movie. The villain, or the counterpart of Tatsuya Nakadai, is also Toshiro Mifune. So these two are in this film as well, and they are just amazing. There's some really great duels in this movie. Really great cinematography throughout. We get a lot of great scenes of the camera sort of showing the POV of our villain character going through the trees as he's being ambushed by a lot of bounty hunters, because he has a bounty on him, and a lot of people can make money off of him if they kill him, but he's one of the best samurais, so it's really hard to kill him. And a lot of people challenge him and duel him, and he slowly goes insane, and it's just wonderful. This is one of my favorite movies that I always go back to, like once a year, maybe twice a year. And if you're a Malazan fan, you will love Sword of Doom. And this is more about the entire series here, but especially movie one. This is a series of films that was based on a manga from the 70s, I believe, and it is the series Lone Wolf and Cub, which came out in the early 70s all the way to the late 70s. But this story is all about, this series of films is about an executioner and his son who are being targeted by the royal family. He knows a lot more than he should as a bodyguard, and there's a new sort of regime change going on at the capital, so he's got to be let go. And so the royal family basically trap him in his own home and kill his wife, and they try to kill his baby son, who's like half a year old, maybe, at the oldest. And the baby's just kind of there, just existing. And this executioner takes his son and leaves the capital. And the rest of the series is about everybody trying to hunt him down and kill him because he knows too much. And he can come back to the royal family and kind of kill everybody because no one's stopping him. No one has control of him. And it is such a lovely series. It's very violent. There's a lot of blood in this. This is definitely a grindhouse film, which is one of my favorite subgenres, is the 1970s cult films, but especially the grindhouse ones that you would find playing in like midnight movies and cult film theaters, mainly in the bigger cities like New York City and Chicago, I believe, had a lot of them. But these movies are just so fucking good. It reminds me, in terms of Malazan, a lot more of the sort of journeys that individual characters will take in order to protect the children. And that is such a consistent theme that is revisited almost in every book in Malazan. So if you're a Malazan fan, you will definitely love this. This movie definitely has a lot more blood than the other films that I've shown already, but it's just amazing. You can see on the front cover, too, like, there's a pile of bodies underneath them that the executioner and his son are standing upon. But it is such a fun series with a lot of great thematical work as well, which is my favorite part of Malazan, is having fun, but also making me think. So, another, I will mostly talk about the first movie, but the second movie sort of fits into this. But another great 1970s Japanese film that I would heavily recommend Malazan fans to watch is Lady Snowblood from 1973. This series, mostly movie one, is about a character named Maraki. I think that's her name. I'm just checking to make sure. Oh, Yuki. Her name is Yuki. She is born of rape, I believe, and her mother is killed in jail during like the 1600s or so, and her daughter is raised as an assassin who is rescued right as her mother is being killed by somebody. I can't remember exactly who, but she's rescued by somebody, and she is brought up as an assassin. And her entire quest is to someday hunt down the killers and rapists of her mother. And this is very Malazan coded, in my opinion, because there's a lot of vengeance and revenge in Malazan, especially with the characters of Red Mask. Lady Snowblood very much reminds me of Red Mask. For anyone who knows that character who's read all the way up to book 7 of Malazan. She is very similar, and she just tears down people so fast. She's such a talented killer. She's great with the sword, with the samurai sword, and it is such a beautiful movie too. There's a lot of snowy scenes where you have Lady Snowblood just cutting people up, and you have the really vibrant 1970s blood hitting the snow, and it looks great on camera. And this movie is just really amazing to watch. It's really well done. Quentin Tarantino lifted entire scenes from this movie. That's how great this movie is, and it's just amazing. It's directed by Toshiya Fujita, and I do plan on reading the manga one day. I don't know when, but I know I would love it. So, yeah, that is Lady Snowblood. Please watch this if you're a Malazan fan. And this is the third to last movie, but this is from Soviet Russia, actually, from 1985. And this is, in my opinion, the most powerful and effective war movies I've ever seen. And it is so harrowing to watch. It's a long one, it's 2.5 hours long. And it follows a 13-year-old boy who is conscripted into the Russian army during World War II against the Nazis. And this is the film Come and See from 1985, directed by Ilya Klimov. What a film. As you can see by the cover of this, that's our main character, a 13-year-old boy. And he does not look 13 years old, but in the beginning of this film, he does. And the entire story is about him losing his innocence because he wants to join the war because he was brought up in a very masculine family where people want to go to war and protect their country and all this stuff, and soldiers find him. They're like, hey, like, you want to join the war? Come with us. And he's sort of just conscripted, and he willingly goes, and his mother's begging him, don't go, like, this is going to be awful. And so he's conscripted. He goes on to the next town, and war breaks out just immediately, and he is immediately thrown into the worst situations, the worst conditions. This movie, a lot of the film has shots like this, where you the viewer are staring down the character and the actor's eyes, and it is so effective. It really makes you face the emotional impact and turmoil that war brings to the innocent and to the vulnerable. And a lot of this movie is very hard to watch. I would not recommend it for anybody who has a weak stomach, who does not like intense films. This is very intense, but I think it's a very important film to watch as well. The performances are very well done, but as I said, as a Malazan reader, this is ultimate war movie, in my opinion. The ultimate war movie to watch as a Malazan reader, because there is no shying away from the violence and the depravity that war brings to humans, and what people are capable of doing to each other during wartime and warfare. And it's just so disgusting. It really makes you not have many hopes for humanity, but yeah, this movie is just incredible. Please watch this if you haven't. It's called Come and See by Elam Klimov. Wow. Another war movie that I would recommend is one by Terrence Malick. And this is one that is a lot more focused around a company of soldiers than just a single soldier like Come and See. But this is The Thin Red Line by Terrence Malick. It came out in 1998. And this one's about 3 hours long, so it is a bit of a marathon, but it's all about the campaign on Guadalcanal, with the Americans storming the island and trying to take control of it. And this is very much like soldiers trying to beat the odds and trying to achieve the impossible. And it is such a honest look at soldiers as well. The script is very well written. Every actor I think everybody knows is in this movie. This is one of those movies where every single character, you look at him and you're like, I know that guy, I know that guy, I know that guy. Like, it's so great. So unfortunately it's not the best for investment, but the acting is so well done anyways that it doesn't really matter. This movie is violent as well. It's a war movie, has great effects. There's even a message in the beginning of the movie where the director says, like, hey, this movie is meant to be listened to loud or played loud. So if you got speakers, ramp them up. Because this movie, the sound design is so well done. I love it. It's been a few years since I've seen it, but I haven't forgotten much from it. It's so effective. I highly recommend The Thin Red Line as a Malazan reader. And lastly, but definitely not least, this is a movie that I absolutely love, and it's directed by one of my favorite modern directors working now. He just released a movie a few months ago, and his name is Robert Eggers. And if you're a Malazan fan, I think you all should watch The Northman. This movie is so fucking good. This is the ultimate revenge quest. This is the ultimate Malazan, like, weird, trippy, prophetic, like, dreams that you see. You see a lot of mystical and magical moments in this movie that aren't really explainable, but Malazan has that as well, and the main character really makes you think of characters like Casa Orlong, of Red Mask, like, oh my gosh, I love this movie. Anya Taylor-Joy is fucking phenomenal in this. Ethan Hawke is great in this. Willem Dafoe. Bjork is fucking in this movie. She's great in this, as always. Alexander Skarsgård is the main in this. The Skarsgård family. All of them are great actors. This movie is just so epic. It's a Norse revenge movie where a Viking is taken hostage, and his mother is taken hostage, and he's just kind of let loose into the wild, and he has to survive however long he has to take in order to get his mother back, because ends up that his uncle has been wanting the throne the entire time. So our main character's father, played by Ethan Hawke, is cut away, taken off the family tree, and the uncle takes over, and the son is trying to get the throne back. It's very Uhtred, if you've read or watched the TV show The Last Kingdom. I love that series. It's so fucking amazing. I recommend everybody watch that as well. Maybe I should do a TV shows like Malazan. I don't know. But The Northman is just so good. Just so fucking raw. So badass. Very violent. So if you're averse to that, don't watch this. But if you can stomach it, this is like some of the best. So good. Nicole Kidman's amazing in this. Robert Eggers can do no wrong in my eyes when it comes to movies. Nosferatu was a little bit of a, I don't want to say disappointment, but Robert Eggers is at his best when he does original movies. And this and The Witch, I couldn't decide between The Witch or this. And I ended up going with this movie as more Malazan, but I would say The Witch also is a very Malazan coded movie, and I highly recommend watching that as well. But my voice is getting a little dry, so I am going to stop here. But thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you think of these movies if you end up watching them. I would highly recommend everybody watch at least one of these movies once. But if you can, please watch all of them. And if there's anybody out there who wants to do like a video where they give their reviews on these movies and want to talk about this and how it relates to Malazan, I would love to do that. That would be so fun for me because I love these movies. I talk about these movies all the time, and I don't feel as if I talk about them enough because not enough people have seen them, in my opinion. But that is it for today again. So thank you all so much for watching, and please have a great rest of the day.